Once upon a time in the city of New York there lived a painter. His name was Harold Shapinsky and he was a very good painter. But unfortunately, nobody realized. So Harold was unknown and poor. In New York, this was definitely not a good thing to be. Meanwhile, far away, in the city of Bangalore in the south of India, lived a teacher, who was also poor and unknown, as tends to be the case with teachers and Indians. This is the story of how their meeting rewrote the history of modern art, of how, for a change, the East conquered the West.
No.
People forgot why it was that these people, like my father, had tried to break down the barriers in the first place.
We used to hang around the wee hours of the morning just with a cup of coffee, sometimes just making little sketches on
It was
paper.
a time of hope. A lot of us really believed that we would change things.
He's obviously a very beautiful painter, but I don't understand why he's not known.
A fairy tale ought really to begin in a palace, perhaps at a ball. Ours must make do with a cocktail party at the home of a member of the South Asian Studies faculty of Chicago University.
I personally have been encouraging the dean to actually raise this issue. I don't think just because Jonathan says so. I would like to take a stand.
Right, you should.
I'll show you how they shake hands. This is folk musicians from Rajasthan. But with the tickle.
One of the guests, who was in Chicago visiting friends, was our teacher from Bangalore, Akumal Ramachander. At this party, Akumal met by chance a 24-year-old graduate student named David Shapinsky.
I don't think anyone will buy that book. Maybe the Communist Party bosses will buy it, you know. You don't need all that in Eastern
But you
Europe.
seem to value Eastern European life more than you do the West.
Absolutely, because I think there's more humanity. Because, you know,
How
suffering
can there
ennobles
be more
you.
humanity in a totalitarian
They spoke lightly of this and that, and got on well. A few days later, there was a second chance encounter. David discovered that Akumal, as well as teaching, was a small-time publicist of artists, promoting a dancer here, a painter there, not always with much success. Now David told Akumal that his father was a painter too.
This is wonderful. That's the sea. That always reminded me of the sea. That's, as you said, that's a lot like a Renaissance style. And it's just full-bodied. You see what I mean? Just a real sense of and I think that's me when I was about 6, as playing baseball, or something like that. But you see the effect of being of my mother's dance on my father, because he's really got a sense of the way body moves.
Oh, yeah.
Very important.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit more lyrical. It's kind of a... the thing about my father's work is that it often... it's so contrasted. They're all so different. This one, this kind of portrait stuff. Lines, the painting hangs, it comes down. You really have a sense of...
David Shapinsky was anxious that his father's work should gain public recognition. But there could scarcely have been a more unlikely fairy godmother than Akumal.
The first thing that struck me about Shapinsky's paintings was the use of color. Absolutely amazing, very fresh, and very close to nature. I always go back to my childhood days. I mean, I had seen all these magnificent butterflies, its primary colors in saris, and all this fresh color that I've seen in India. So it was like a trip back to India.
Reminds me of a British shirt, don't you think? Now that's...
I like the color here.
You like that one?
Oh.
That's
Oh, I think it's...
how big
great.
how big you think that one is?
Well, I think it must be at least 2 feet by 3 feet. I mean, it's looks very...
No.
You know.
What would you say if I told you that was only 2 inches by 2 inches? I think the thing about my father is that he takes his art seriously at the same time.
Akumal's somewhat idiosyncratic but passionate response to Harold Shapinsky's pictures, even as seen on the world's most rickety slide projector, made David think that he might be the man to make the breakthrough. It was just unlikely enough to work.
You know what I mean? So he's not too bad, huh?
Well, I think I'm going to do something with it.
I hope so.
It's not straight on the back, but it looks better on the front.
Better,
You see, I told you.
you do.
Yeah, really, that's why I can't, no, that's why I can't use the backs. They're just not predictable. This is what I love.
That's your beauty.
This is really nice. That'll be the center.
For many years, Kate and Harold Shapinsky have lived in small Manhattan apartments on very little money. Kate, once a dancer, now makes quilts and sweaters and sells them to local boutiques. They're almost as short of cash today as they were when they first met, some 40 years ago.
No one was really concerned with money. Living was very cheap. The important thing was to do the work. And no one even thought really of exhibiting in those days. So it was a totally different atmosphere. It was hard to survive, though, because jobs weren't always that easy to get. And in some cases, there were some people who, you know, had money, were able to afford eating 3 times a day or lots of material to work with. But many of us really struggled, even some of the more important ones. often didn't have enough money to eat. Sometimes I'd meet them in some cafeterias or bars at free lunch counters. And there was a time when I went to the art student slate where she was modeling. I wanted to meet her, and I wasn't quite sure where she was, which studio, and I finally discovered where she was, and I borrowed a crayon and a poster board and wrote, "Meet me up in the cafeteria," and I marched into this studio where she was laying on the dais, all naked, with a billboard, "Meet me up in the cafeteria," and the whole class turned around and applauded afterwards. And I had about $2.50 in my pocket at that time, and she was starving, and she had to be somewhere uptown, not too far from here. And
It was 72nd Street.
we stopped off at some little hamburger place or something like that. And
No, it was a health food store.
Whatever it was.
And I made you feed me. I didn't know he used up his last pennies.
And I used up my last penny and walked all the way home to way, way downtown near Delancey Street. And I didn't have anything to eat for several days. But it was well worth it, wasn't it?
It was worth it to me.
The city of Bangalore has the reputation of being India's fastest growing boom town. In spite of this, Akumal Ramachander's life there had hitherto moved at a somewhat un-Manhattan-esque pace. He lived quietly with his parents and was employed as a teacher of English at a local college of agriculture. For his services, he was rewarded with the title of professor. But the work required of him, as he was the first to admit, wasn't exactly of professorial caliber.
She was offered a chair by us. That's the first possibility. The second possibility is, now a chair becomes the subject here, okay? So a chair was offered, well, to her is perfect, but we generally drop to, you know? It's understood. Obviously, this is in the active voice, and you have to transform.
The professor also belongs to a group of art lovers that meets regularly to listen to music or just to talk. On this occasion, Akumal has been asked to tell the improbable but true story of his American adventure.
David showed me some of his father's slides, and especially some portraits reminded me of the Renaissance masters, and I said, well, there's something here. And I asked him to phone his father and tell him that he had met some crazy Indian from Bangalore who was prepared to promote his work on two conditions. I didn't want him to show his work to anyone, and not to sell his work for any cost. David told me that his parents had had a very, very hard time in New York. It's barely living, you know, above the poverty line. I said, well, let him suffer for another year. But I promised him that within less than 6 months, I would get him a major exhibition in Europe. Because something told me, I'm not an art historian, I know that, but it was a very strong intuitive feeling, a gut level feeling that the work I was seeing was that of a very great artist.
In spite of all the hardship and lack of recognition, Harold Shapinsky has remained an abstract expressionist most of his working life. But in all work of the highest quality lies an insistence on being seen in order that it may fully exist.
I made a choice with Hesh. We made a choice. So I didn't mind any of the privation. I decided refrigerators were not the solution, and vacuum cleaners and all the other things that people want. And we've had a really wonderful life. He really is, to me, and I've known so many artists and seen so many paintings and lived with paintings, that I know what Hesh does is really super, more than super. I don't think there are any words for it.
And so one day, Akumal arrived at the Port Authority coach terminal. The fairy godmother had come to visit Cinderella, not in a puff of smoke, but by Greyhound bus. And then, on foot, up 5 flights of stairs. And the ambiguous ascent of Harold Shapinsky towards international recognition was about to begin.
What's that?
Muffins. Muffins.
Oh. Let me. Is this okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so let's, this is
Once burned.
to your success, to the eventual
Great success.
To your success.
Salud,
Love,
salud,
happiness.
salud.
Yeah.
Wait, Mr. Dear, I didn't do you. Thank you.
Ah, that's good.
To a better world.
Most important.
David said you've been working for over 40 years.
Well, pretty nearly. I started when I was really very young and have kept at it on and off ever since.
There was a fourth person at the Shapinsky's table that day. This was Sudhir, a young photographer, also from Bangalore, who had made slides of Harold's work at Akumal's expense.
Otherwise, I don't think a meat eater could have discovered Harold Shapinsky.
In the making of those slides, Sudhir had tried to portray the great range of Harold Shapinsky's work. For Harold, it meant that his work had at last been transferred to a form in which it could be easily carried around and shown.
Even here, I think this one, I mean, I can see, see what you're doing.
This is really, that was in the 50s.
Absolutely.
And, that really has a great pull across the surface. Because I've always helped my wife with some of her dances.
And for Kate Shapinsky too, an age of waiting was almost over.
50s was your strongest period?
I really, sometimes almost cried inside at night. And I prayed to my grandfather, who was a minister. You know, when I was falling asleep, I would go through these things. And sometimes I'd look at Hesh in the middle of the night and pray for, I mean, such a tragedy to lose, for a person not to see something that's beautiful. Because beauty is something that refreshes and puts back together our souls.
There's a continuity. I think you're coming back to your, whatever little I've seen here.
I love a kind of lyricism.
Yes,
which
absolutely.
you feel
Yes,
there, even
yes,
though it has
yes,
a kind of a
yes.
very dynamic feeling about it. And I love things which are really pulled apart and very dramatic to create a kind of a sound. I like the paintings to create a kind of a sound in them.
There was 40 years of work stored in great confusion in Harold's tiny studio for Akumal to examine and digest. And there was also a relationship to build.
I think this is absolutely great. But no major art critic saw this painting? No one?
No. Or if it was reviewed, I didn't see that review.
Were they flying kites when this exhibition was on? I mean, I'm very interested, you know.
They should
Because, yes.
And this one is also from the middle 50s?
Things went well. Harold Shapinsky agreed to put his pictures in the hands of the crazy Indian from Bangalore.
Yeah, I saw this in the slide, but this is...
That's also oil and paper, which I like using.
And this is also untitled?
Yeah, yes it is. Yeah. I love the feel of paper.
Was there an economic reason also why you didn't paint on canvas?
Very often that was true. Couldn't afford good canvas, so I used paper.
Harold fought shy of pursuing dealers and art historians because after having met him in his apartment and getting to know him a bit, I got the feeling that he was a man of tremendous spiritual integrity, that he believed in creating beauty. He thought that it was his duty to create all these beautiful works of art, and it was not his job to, you know, advertise them. I mean, if fame came to him or if recognition came to him, he would not say no, but he would not chase fame or recognition or whatever. And I think there are some men still alive who believe in this. It's in a very, very different way, art for art's sake. He created beauty because, you know, beauty must be created, you know. Beauty must be sort of celebrated. And that's what he's done.
Akumal had agreed to take on the power of New York, the undisputed capital of the international art market, single-handed. No establishment likes to admit it's wrong, perhaps least of all to a voluble Indian from a Bangalore agricultural college.
Hello, is that Sydney Janis Gallery? Good afternoon. May I speak to the director of the gallery, please?
He's tied up right now. May I ask who's calling?
Well, this is Akumal Ramachander. I'm from India. And I think I have made a great discovery, a great American artist, an abstract expressionist, a contemporary of de Kooning and Pollock. I would like to show some of his slides to you. Would you be interested? No, but you know, I'm in New York only for a day, and I thought I could meet you, show you the slides, and get your response.
These are slides of whose work? No, I'm not going to be able to make an appointment for you, but if you think it's worth your while, you're welcome to bring them in.
No, I think it's very important. I mean, can't you just spare a couple of minutes? I mean, you may regret your decision later, but...
There's certainly no chance of seeing him this week.
30 galleries refused even to look at the slides. Akumal was undismayed.
Some people back home in India know me as a pest. I mean, I just go on pestering them till they say yes. So, or no sometimes, you know, they just say, get the hell out of here.
Changing strategy, he arrived in Europe on borrowed money, hoping that his inexhaustible pestering would finally begin to work.
There were no motives in the sense that I was not running after fame or money or nothing of that sort. The only goal was to get Harold Shapinsky the recognition which I thought he had not got all these years. And there was nothing, I mean, I had nothing to lose anyway. I mean, I was borrowing a lot of money left, right, and center. I knew that I had to repay that one day or the other. But apart from that, you know, there's nothing to lose. And I've never fought shy of meeting people, you know, whoever they are, however great they are, because I believe in this, I must admit and say, this Upanishadic thing that aham brahmasmi, you know, there's the genius in all of us. Some of us are very shy and the others are quite audacious about it. And I think it was my audacity which helped me get to where I've got to, you know. It's long live audacity.
This has been a very old question. It's like, for example, we talk about playing chess.
Yes.
Now, chess is a game, actually. And do you need language to play chess? This is a fundamental question which has been raised. Do you need intelligence? And is intelligence tied up with language?
The Indian cultural tradition has always been a mixed one, part Hindu, part Muslim, Jain, Sikh and Parsi, and elements of Western culture have certainly enriched it too.
I speak to all my friends in English, you know. I mean, so if I want to be polite to a friend who speaks Kannada, I speak to him in Kannada. That's out of sheer politeness. Whereas in Polish, it's different. Whereas in my case, I can't, I'm not that fluent in my mother tongue.
The West has always claimed to have discovered India, as if the place were an oil seam or a mathematical theorem. But it hasn't often been possible for Indians to return the compliment and do the discovering. And that's one of the things the story of Akumal and Shapinsky is really about. Because in it, East discovers West, and as a result, it's the Western tradition that has been enriched. To say nothing of Akumal and Shapinsky.
Yeah, that's your background, whereas because of my background, I'm more, you know, attuned, or shall I say, I feel more comfortable with Western music.
At the Tate Gallery, very few people arrive unannounced and demand to see the boss.
Have you got an appointment?
No, I don't.
Can you tell me what it's about?
I think I've stumbled onto a great discovery. It's an American abstract expressionist, a contemporary of Pollock and de Kooning.
I met his son at a party in Chicago, and then we became friends, and then he said he'd like...
Remarkably, Akumal broke through. he was seen by the keeper of the Tate's modern collection, Ronald Alley. Akumal, talking unstoppably, was taken to a room where at long last he would be able to open the magic box, the box containing the Shapinsky slides.
You know, I have the slides in my bag. Yes, you know, so.
Very beautiful color.
It's very interesting. Very beautiful landscape.
Yes, this is much looser.
The slides were obviously having the right effect. Ronald Alley took 2 hours to examine them, and his seal of approval was to be the crucial factor.
I can only assume that the reason why he is unknown is that nobody has seen this stuff.
No, but I mean, to be fair to Shapinsky, he did exhibit. There were no one-man shows, but there were group shows, and obviously there were critics and dealers and art historians there in New York at the time. They were just not born yesterday.
How prominent were the group shows? If they,
there was a very important show at the Coots Gallery in 1950-51. And I think
that's a long time ago.
Yes, and I'm told the Coots Gallery is supposed to be very, very important.
Very good gallery,
and what were the art historians doing? I mean, some of these slides that you see, even some of the paintings were shown then, and it's very, very interesting and rather amazing that none of them could see the quality of his work, and that you had to wait for a person all the way from Bangalore in India to come and tell you that I mean, here is a great artist. So,
yes, but of course. Abstract expressionism wasn't as widely appreciated.
I don't know. Maybe they're colorblind. I don't know. It's possible that they are looking only for established...
Maybe it was rather an obscure place. Maybe people didn't see it. But I'd have thought that it shouldn't be at all difficult to find a dealer to show his work.
In
I'm
London,
amazed that he's not known.
Are you looking to a gallery in London?
Yes.
Because I don't know the scene here, and I'd be very grateful if you can put me in touch with someone.
Well, gladly.
Ronald Alley recommended James Mayer of London's Mayer Gallery. For the first time since he began working on Shapinsky's behalf, Akumal had stopped being an outsider. He was now that most pakka of persons, a man who had been properly introduced.
Mr. Alley of the Tate saw them and liked them very much, and he said that this gallery would be very apt. I was told that you're the best person here, so...
Now, I'm very thrilled that Mr. Alley suggested coming to here, because just looking at these photographs at this moment is very extraordinary. Now, you say that he hasn't shown since 1951.
Yes,
and that
he
was
just
the
had one exhibition at the Coots Gallery, and after that he just disappeared.
James Mayer quickly agreed to hold Shapinsky's first ever one-man exhibition. The miracle had been worked. London had recognized what the New York art market had for so long ignored.
A great illusion of
$34,000, right side at $34,000. Yes, $34,000, it's number 87. Lot number 9. And $25,000 is bid here now, 25, 26,000. At $26,000, it's my bid here now at 26,000, 27,000.
This multi-million-dollar art market isn't quite the same place as the art world. The latter contains a few artists, after all. However, New York did recognize abstract expressionism well before Europe, and maybe a part of the European celebration of Shapinsky is because of the pleasure of being first for a change. Here, last November, a de Kooning was sold for almost $2 million. Harold Shapinsky couldn't have sold a picture for $200.
At $44,000, but on the phone left at $44,000.
I love the American people because they're so simple, they're so honest, they're also very naive. And I think I do get along with the naive because I'm also very, very naive. But whatever little I know about the American art market, that disgusts me because it's only money which matters. And they're waiting to convert anything into a commodity. That's why I told David that, look, David, I promise you that within 6 months or less than 6 months, I'll get your father a major exhibition in Europe. I'm not sure about America. And I think I've been proved right. See, I got to the Smithsonian Institution which is a very, very great institution. And the curators of the Hirshhorn Museum saw the slides, and I don't think they've yet decided whether Shapinsky is a great painter or not. I mean, this is a mystery, you know. And it may also be that, Akumal is not an art historian. What does he know about art? But now they look like fools now. I mean, with all due respect to the Smithsonian.
51 and 2 here. At $52,000, is a fair warning at $52,000. Sold for $52,000.
Was he eating the ice?
No, he's stinking.
Oh.
Shapinsky's work will probably soon be commanding high prices. But one must fear that for Harold and Kate, with their love of simplicity, the price could be even higher.
Hope not.
They've never really needed an awful lot to be happy. And that was, I guess, the secret, and still is.
Coming of spring, though it's not very
It
warm.
feels like that right now.
It really feels.
It certainly looks that way.
Those are pigeons.
Yeah, probably.
He's never worked to be noticed. And he, in a way, both pulled away, rebelled against the fact that the New York school became an institution. You know, they became, in a sense, exactly the kinds of people that they had sought not to be. And when my father pulled away from that, he pulled away from what amounted to a growing commercialization of the art world, because he believed that his art was more important than making money, than anything.
Now, however, the Shapinsky's long, quiet seclusion is already at an end.
Maybe just even a little bit
Cameras,
back.
those one-eyed camp followers of fame, have already nosed their way in.
You know, it would be great if we could rest one of the framed paintings on the back of your paint table there. Is that possible at all?
Harold has been visited by Joe McNally, a photographer on an assignment for the London Observer magazine, for its major feature on Shapinsky's work.
I would be pursuing here, of course, is you and your work. Hit right off of this.
This photographer is lucky. He's the first. Harold is extremely cooperative. And so it's done. The artist becomes the subject of the picture rather than its maker. Next day, James Mayer visits to make his selection for the Shapinsky show.
You can get more out of black than almost any other colour. I feel in the exhibition it's very important that we have a group of the black and white as well as the coloured ones, because I feel that the black and white is particularly important to your work. Now, taking this format, this from basically starting in 1949, I chose this group, which I've got in some form of order.
The Mayer Gallery has held exhibitions by many of the most important modern American artists: Motherwell, Lichtenstein, Warhol. Shapinsky's show at the Mayer Gallery is a way of saying that he is of their company. It's being said a little late in the day, but it is, at least, being said.
Because there's such a terribly strong theme going through all of them, and it seemed fascinating that, you know, that's 47, 1960, 62, and then 1970. The whole thing, and all the ones on this almost size and square format seem to me to come out with the same imagery. All great art is like to mention. Yeah, and especially with sculpture. You know, you can have a great sculpture that's only this high. Yes. Yeah. And when it's gigantic, it quite often fails.
Well, that's something I've always believed in. I've always had a very strong feeling for early art, cyclitic dolls all the way through up. And they've had a very strong influence upon my feeling for form.
But you've always used the same, you go back to the same medium things. I love this charcoal that you use.
I started doing that very early in my career where I would work.
Gauri Chapin just wind driver,
You can't help wondering how Akumal's part in the success of an American painter 10,000 miles away from home might transform his own family life.
I think I'm going to visit the same places that I used to before, and my friends who have known me all these years are going to be my friends. We'll still quarrel about the same old issues, and we'll still like each other. I'll still gate crash into their homes without even announcing my visit and demand a cup of coffee. Nothing will change.
Who knows? Maybe after changing so much for Shapinsky, Akumal will manage to work the opposite miracle for himself and keep his own world just the same as ever. Harold Shapinsky's family were Russian Jews from Brooklyn. He grew up during the Depression. It was a time of strong neighborhood spirit. He has preserved that commitment to community activities all his life. And now, his own artistic community is prominent in his plans for the future.
If we make a great deal of money out of this, if that happens, and that isn't the terribly important thing, but we've talked about that, I would love to set up a fund for young struggling artists. And so I understand only too well what the struggle is for young artists, and it's even more difficult today.
But there are things that Harold wants for himself as well. Money will buy him time to paint without worrying about money. It'll buy him materials, especially the big canvases he's practically never been able to afford. And it'll get him a big studio where he can stop falling over his old pictures every time he takes a step back. If he has any left to fall over by then.
We're nearly there. It's just one more, and then we have you. Then we're on to you. So just put that safely over there.
The opening date of the Shapinsky exhibition is rapidly approaching, and the paintings have arrived in London to be framed.
This massive knife we've got. How's that? Okay. There we go.
Well, that's very good then. Down.
Are we right way? Yes, we are.
Yep.
quite a good movie.
There we are.
Okay.
James Mayer has chosen just 22 pictures for this show. 22 pictures distilled from a lifetime's work.
Here we are. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. There we are. Different again. Oh, we've got two there. Hold on.
Two for the press.
No, it's on a different, that's on a very thin paper, that one. So again,
By the way, if you've ever bought a picture because of its frame, don't be ashamed. As you can see, the experts think the frame is as important as the picture too. Here, for example, we see a masterpiece by Giorgio de Chirico pulled out of a rack, just to see if the frame will suit the colouring of a Shapinsky.
I think, you see, you get the idea just immediately.
There now. Irresistible, isn't it?
And may I have another glass, please? When I told Motherwell that, he said, oh, that means you must not.
Harold Shapinsky's 60th birthday party is a little unlike the other 59. There are about 200 guests. The Shapinskys probably know about 6 of them.
Well, although actually the ambassador to Germany at that time.
Slightly dazed by the whole tiny little apartment in Manhattan.
You don't have to bother now. And again, another Dutchman, Alexander von Gravenstein, said, Akumal, you have James Mayer with you. Go back to India and relax.
Akumal's work is complete. The paintings have reached the public.
We hope you don't blow all your money in one day.
Now, Ronald Alley's enthusiasm is confirmed by others. The first reactions are excellent. Shapinsky is an extremely good and original abstract expressionist, writes the London Times art critic. His forms have an extraordinary interior energy. So it is a happy birthday, after all.
Technology has outlawed the fairy tale, and this has all the qualities of a fairy tale, because I think there's one factor which has won, and that is innocence. I mean, I have a lot of innocence in me. Not in the sense that I don't know what's happening, you know. Because I wouldn't think twice of phoning up, anyone, Margaret Thatcher or Ronald Reagan or Rajiv Gandhi or anyone, and ask them for an appointment or a meeting and say, look, something is going wrong. Why don't you try to do something about it? So I think it was this sense which was conveyed to David the day we had lunch in Chicago, and so he thought he should try this man from Bangalore. And he's been proved right.
Lived happily ever after. Well, it's tempting to end with those words, but you can't help feeling that in every sense that really matters, Kate and Harold Shapinsky have been living happily all their lives.